So we're going to be starting a new series. It's all based off of The Game of Networking, an amazing book by Rob Sperry. He's a good friend of ours. We've met up with him a few times when we've been up by corporate office in Utah. And his book is really a great guideline for who you need to be to have the success that you want in your business. And I would say actually in life as well. Yeah. So today we're going to be going into the first law that he covers, and that's the law of likability. So Don D is really going to be going into the importance of good first impressions and what it means to be likable tonight. So thank you so much for bringing this to us.
Absolutely. And Marcy and I didn't talk about this. So I'm going to go off script really briefly, because I think it's very, very important to do so for this reason. The network marketing industry lost an incredible leader on Saturday. I wasn't expecting to have this kind of response
on Friday. Mind-blowing.
On Friday, yeah. Jessie Lee Ward was a living legend in network marketing, and I think this right here.
Her a goat.
Yeah,
she was the greatest of all time.
I can't argue that, because this good first impression. In the law of likability, and if you don't know who Jessie Lee Ward is, she was just an incredibly energetic, raw, authentic, loving, caring individual. And I have to be completely transparent. My first impression of her it wasn't bad. It was just, she's just so not my type.
She's larger than life, right?
I wouldn't say I was off put by her approach. I just didn't lean into her approach because she was just over the top. And I don't say that negatively. I say that because it was my bad, because I missed the quality of what she was talking about because I was distracted by her energetic delivery. And why I am repenting for that publicly is because one thing about Jessie Lee Ward is we met her briefly, I think maybe one time. And just to put things in perspective about this amazing woman, she had 1.5 million customers in her organization and 21,000 consultants. And that didn't stop her from every single year on my birthday to send me a personalized, whether it was an audio or a personal text through Facebook Messenger, a happy birthday, mentioned me by name, and went out of her way, not just a single paragraph, maybe a paragraph or two, to share just how great of a day she was wishing me to have. Never once tried to recruit me, probably didn't even know what company I was in. But for someone who has 1.5 million customers and 21,000 consultants on her own team, she took the time every single year to wish me personally a happy birthday. And the first time, I thought it was an anomaly. The second time, raised my eyebrows. The third time, I was convinced this is an amazing, amazing human being. And never once, like I said, did she ever try to recruit me. But what she did, from my very first impression of her being over the top energetically, by the way she conducted herself, I liked her, and I would even tell you I loved her.
Yeah.
And I didn't really even know her, just because of how consistent she was, because the law of likability is something that she absolutely mastered, which is also why she had an organization so huge and helped so many people. And to Marcy, what Marcy said, I will even say she was the GOAT, the greatest of all time. Yeah. And it is a huge loss for this profession, but she left a huge
impact,
huge example of what to do, how to do it, and why. And she never, ever, ever wavered, not even when she was fighting for her life with stage 4 colon cancer. And that is just the most impressive demonstration of what it means to be a network marketing professional that I have ever seen in my entire life. So Jessie Lee Ward, thank you for the example that you left, and we wish you peace. And we know where you are, and we pray for your family, your team, your company, the people that you influenced, and the massive, massive wake you left behind you. Thank you.
Being only 34 years of age and leaving the impact that she left, one of her greatest examples is to live big and love bigger.
Yeah.
So if we can just live a little bigger and love a lot more in honor of Jessie Lee, her legacy is never going to die because of the way she lived her life and the way she cared about people. And it really does come down to who she was as a person. And that's why we really wanted to go through the game of networking with you guys and kind of go through these different laws about who you should think about becoming in order to have the success in life that you want. And then if you become this person, you will naturally have the success that you want in your business. So again, thank you, Jessie Lee, for being that example, for being someone that would make people that hardly knew you cry when they found out that you are gone. But then praising God, knowing where you're at. But this is, I mean, if you look on social media over the past 3 days, there are so many people that are just devastated at her loss because of how she lived. So
at such a young age.
Yeah.
So
I, and that's another thing people talk about all the time, that you need to live your life for what you want people to, what they will say about you at your funeral, right? What is that called when somebody talks about who you were? And
eulogy.
Yes, your eulogy. Doing the eulogy exercise is something that is really helpful. And I think that Jessie, just thinking about her loss right now, it would be a really great exercise for each one of us to do is, what do we want people to say about us or think about us the day that we pass away and for years afterwards, right? How do we want to be remembered? So maybe take some time this week and go through that and do your own eulogy exercise and write out what you want people to remember you for what you did in your life. So, all right, let's get to this. Let's get to the law of likability, but thank you so much for saying that about Jessie.
So as Marcy said, what we're going to be doing is kind of paraphrasing or going over the key bullet points of a book called The Game of Networking by Rob Sperry. And this is what the book looks like. Rob has become a friend of ours, and we met Rob at the same place we met Jessie Lee. And that was at the GoPro network marketing event that Eric Worre does every year in Las Vegas. And this thing right here, this is the title slide, and I'm going to get into a little bit more detail on the power of first impressions. But when we met Rob for the very first time, it was at the end of the final night of the GoPro network marketing event. And it was late. It was probably close to midnight. And we're walking down, exiting this room and look over, and there's Rob Sperry, and recognize him because of who he is as an industry leader. But he introduced himself to us. And we were all tired. It was very obvious. It was either close to midnight or after midnight. And I can't speak for Marcy. I was just focusing on getting back to our hotel room so that we could literally just go to sleep, because it was an incredibly taxing, energetically, emotionally draining day, but for all good reasons. And this guy is just acting like it's 7 a.m. and he's raring to go. And he's talking to two complete strangers. And the three of us just walked for probably 10 or 15 minutes. And he was just asking questions about us and being positive and complimentary, and literally didn't even know us. But what he was picking up in our conversation, he was complimenting us. And I was thinking to myself, this guy is freaking awesome, and made us really feel important, because I know for sure he was probably just as tired as I was, or as we were, but could have just walked next to us or ahead of us or behind us the whole way, never said a word. And because that's probably what I would have done. I didn't engage anybody the way he engaged us. And it taught, I can't speak for Marcy, taught me a very valuable lesson on taking the time to make someone feel incredibly special, especially when you're meeting somebody for the first time, and when it's authentic and genuine, and when it's not. And this certainly was. And how do I know that? Because a little over a year later, we got connected on Facebook and on LinkedIn, and Marcy and I were in Salt Lake. As she said, we were up there for corporate headquarters for something, and Rob saw that we were there based on one of our posts, and he texts us and said, "Hey guys, what are you guys doing? Let's meet up." And it's like, oh my gosh, Rob Sperry's reaching out to us. We met him one time. We had a dialogue. We had, commented back and forth on each other's posts and stuff, but he reached out to us and met us at a restaurant in Salt Lake City, spent a couple hours with us, just the two of us and just him. And he was there to give us a free copy of his book that he had just written at the time called The Game of Conquering. It's actually the follow-up book to The Game of Networking. But he wrote on the inside, he hand wrote a note to us and said, "Don Diamarci, I hope you two enjoy this book. Congrats on all your success, Rob." And it chokes me up to think somebody who has the stature of Rob Sperry. And if you don't know who Rob Sperry is, he's just like Eric Worre, neutral, not part of a company anymore, but he coaches high-end leaders in network marketing and coaches and mentors them. And he's never once, ever tried to solicit us into his program. He's just been a friend. And in today's day and age, in today's world, and if you listen to his book, The Game of Networking, you will understand this man walks his walk and he talks his talk. And this is something I love it. Like when you walk the walk and you talk the talk, but the walk talks louder than the talk talks. And that is definitely the case with Rob Sperry. So I wanted to, one, introduce you guys to him if you didn't know who he is, encourage you to get his books. So the first one is The Game of Networking. And let me go into some of the in his book, The Law of Likeability, and why it is so important. And when you're likable, you're memorable. When you're average or you're not. It's how can you be likable, memorable, and make someone feel good? The key is you can be authentic. But here's the thing about likability. It's not innate. It's not natural. Well, in some people it is, but if it's not how you normally would be, it is absolutely a skill set that you can develop when you understand why and why it's so powerful and how you can use it to make a tremendous impact. Because I like just mentioning, obviously, Jessie Lee Ward. She was a very introverted person growing up. She had 0 friends. She said she ate alone at lunch every single day from kindergarten all the way through high school because she was the weird kid. Nobody liked her. Nobody hung out with her. But in 10 years, from 24 years old, where she couldn't even afford $300 for rent, to passing away at 34 years old, a multi-millionaire, it's because she was likable, because she cared about people. It was her superpower. So let's get into the content here in Rob's book, The Game of Networking. So 7 things highly likable people do. So think about yourself in any of these things when you're talking to someone who's a prospect, when you're talking to someone who's just maybe not even a prospect, you're just met somebody for the first time and you're engaging with them. The 7 things that highly likable people do is they ask questions. Rather than tell about who they are, they ask questions about who their prospect is. It all comes down to when somebody's telling you all about them, who do you think is important, or they are? Does it make you feel important when someone's talking all about them, or does it make you feel important when they're asking questions all about you? That's the keys. Ask questions. They're authentic. And you know when somebody's asking you an authentic question versus a fabricated one, or one that is they're having to really, really try and make it happen. You know when it's authentic. So asking questions, being authentic, and then knowing when to pause and reconsider. Meaning if the person is not responding to the questions you're asking, if they're not really feeling, if they're keeping a social distance from you and it's not because of COVID or your bad breath or whatever, you can pause and reconsider and figure out what's going on here. How can I take a different approach? If one thing, you care about the person and you genuinely and you're authentically caring about the person, and they use positive body language. First and foremost, eye contact and being open-minded. When you're looking at someone in the eye, and you're close to them, and you're modeling their energy, you're modeling their tone, and you're leaning in and asking questions, it makes people just like you. They can't not, because they're showing interest in you, especially when you feel these things, when someone's asking you questions and you can feel their authenticity, and they pause to listen to what you're saying. They're making eye contact with you. They're using positive body language. You can't help but like them, even if you don't like the clothes they're wearing. It's just a human trait. And then eye contact, being open-minded. So here's the thing about being open-minded. When you try a certain approach, and let's say you're trying to prospect somebody and you're trying a certain approach and it's not working, be open-minded, ask an additional question, maybe pivot and go a different direction. Open-minded people do that. Closed-minded people that are only going for the close and the sale don't do that, and they leave a bad impression. You all know what I'm talking about. The used car salesman approach. They don't make you feel authentic, or they're not authentic. They're not asking you questions. They certainly don't pause. They're just talking to you. They're not open-minded. They usually don't make eye contact, and they're not making you feel important. They're making you feel like you have to get away rapidly. Those are all signs of things that are unlikable. And lastly, they put away their phones. There's nothing more rude, I'll tell you, and distracting as talking to somebody and they're on their phone, or you're talking to somebody and you're on your phone. Don't do it. These are the 7, or these are just, this is just 7. There's many, many more, but these are 7 very important things that people do to be likable, and things that likable people do. I thought this was actually fascinating. Columbia University did a study on success in the workplace and in the perception of coworkers and employers. What makes people successful? What are some of the traits? And so success in the workplace is guaranteed not by what or who you know, but rather by your popularity and your likability. Interesting thing they found is popular workers, meaning workers that are liked by their coworkers, they're seen as trustworthy and motivated. They're seen as serious and decisive, hardworking, and they were recommended for fast-track promotions and generous pay raises. But the interesting thing, I would say the more interesting thing, is the contradiction of that. The less liked workers, and these are by their coworkers, people that were less liked by their coworkers were perceived as arrogant, conniving, and manipulative, and pay raises and promotions were almost ruled out altogether, regardless of their academic backgrounds and their professional qualifications. It all comes down to likability in the workplace, because if you like the coworkers that you are with, they will not stab you in the back. They'll actually promote you among your peers, for sure, your coworkers, and obviously your employers, your managers, your bosses, or whatever. And that's obvious, but it really comes down to likability. Now, here's the thing. If you have a coworker and you like them, you're not feeling threatened by them, or they're trying to take your next promotion away from you. That is very, very powerful in the workplace, and it's something that works masterfully in network marketing as opposed to the general workplace. It's much more common in network marketing to like your coworkers than it is in a traditional office environment. But the people that do work with coworkers in their office environment, when they're likable, all of these things are valid. And I thought that was incredible. So another thing here, first impressions last forever, so don't screw it up. It's one of the key things that Rob talks about in his book, but this quote was pretty amazing. To be successful, you have to be able to relate to people. They have to be satisfied with your personality to be able to do business with you and to build a relationship with, here's the key, mutual trust. Because if you trust somebody, they are obviously likable. They've checked off that box. When you are suspicious about somebody, or you're not sure about somebody, or you can't trust somebody, it's probably because you don't like them, because of some interaction trait that they have or don't have, or you feel threatened, or you don't feel important, whatever the case may be. The key about mutual trust is likability, and first impressions are huge with that. Here's something I didn't know until reading this book. First impressions are created within the first 7 to 30 seconds of meeting someone. the first 7 to 30 seconds of meeting someone are the most important 7 to 30 seconds in your entire relationship with that person, because first impressions last forever. And you'll never get a second chance to have a first impression. It is massive. Now, is it possible to have a bad first impression and go around at some point later and rectify the situation? Yes, but that first impression, regardless of what it was, will still be there. The longer, now, if you do something completely 90 or 180 degrees different and you now are likable, whereas you weren't initially, you can, over time, rectify the situation and rebuild your personality and your persona with somebody. But first impressions seriously last forever. So make sure you take the time and effort and pause and think about it and make the approach so that it does last forever. But here's the key: please, please, please make it authentic. And if it's not yet authentic, just practice. Because like I said, it's a skill set. It is a skill set. And how do you, let me just share this with you. The products that we have and the potential difference that they make in people is grounds enough to have passion behind sharing our products, because they clearly make major differences. And the compensation plan, our Evolve compensation plan, can make a massive financial difference in someone who is struggling financially. So that passion of getting behind our comp plan is there too. So you don't have to fabricate your interest or your feelings. They can be authentic because of thinking what we have. And then the second bullet point here, smile. It is something that one of Marcy's superpowers is being able to talk and smile at the same time. It is something that she does it effortlessly. I literally feel awkward because when I try to do it, it just doesn't come naturally to me. And I know that's an excuse. I can practice on it. It is a skill set. I just sit and watch her in awe, trying to be as awesome as smiling as she is. But make the extra effort to genuinely be interested in the person immediately after you meet them, because that first impression, as it says here, lasts forever. And next slide here. So the keys here: make them feel important. And I remember Carrie Dickey talking about all the time, imagine everybody that you talk to has a sign around their neck that says, make me feel important. And I don't know if that was Carrie's original thought or she used it from someone else.
I think she got it from Mary Kay Ash.
Yeah.
Mary Kay Ash, that was one of her key things.
Sorry, Mary Kay, but when I think about that, I think of Carrie Dickey.
That's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm sure Mary Kay, I don't even know if she's still around anymore, but
No,
if she was
not.
and she knew who Carrie Dickey was, she would have let Carrie Dickey take credit for that. But in my opinion, that's where I heard it from, and it made them, and I could feel Carrie's authenticity when she said it, which is why I give her the author of that quote every time I use it, and then call them by name as often as you address them. It is something, and I can't understate this. When you mention someone by name, especially if you've gotten introduced to them, because, and I can't speak for Marcy, but this is one of the things I struggle with when I meet somebody for the very first time, and if they're introduced to me, memorizing their first name. I really have to try hard to remember their first name, and I have to say it over and over and over in my head. And then when it gets after the introductions, if it comes to engaging them, just to show myself that I've memorized it, I will start off my response to that person or a comment to that person by using their first name.
You did that really well.
I try, because it's very important. I love
well.
it when people do it with me, because it makes me feel important. As if I took the time to tell you my name, or they asked my name and then you never repeated it again, I'm thinking in my head they probably forgot it, because that happens to me all the time.
If they say it the right way for you.
Yeah. Mispronunciations of my name are very common, and it's okay. I forgive easily. But using people's name, try it. If you've experienced it personally, try it on the other side. Use the people that you talk to, whether you're intending them as a prospect or just a new potential friend, or you're the neighbor across the street who just moved in, whatever it is, know their name, use their name when you address them. It goes a long, long way to make a great first impression. Now, here's something about the importance of being a likable person. Why should it even be an objective for you? Why should it be your goal? Why should you attempt to be more likable, especially if you think you're already likable? And most people are that are network marketers. Well, here's some very important things that research has shown. Likable people are more successful in business and in life. Likable people get elected, promoted, and rewarded more often than those who are less likable. And I want to share something here. I read a statistic So Gallup polls, especially, we are now obviously in a political season. Next year is the next presidential election. Gallup polls have been keeping data on this specific topic of likability since 1960 of presidential candidates. And so every 4 years since 1960, there's been three major things that presidential candidates have been looked at and scrutinized for. One is their issues, their policies, and their stance on things like the economy, foreign relations, whatever it is, it's the issues. The other is their political affiliation. What political party are they affiliated with? And lastly, likability. Those three things are the most important: issues and policies, a political affiliation, and likability. Well, guess which one holds the most weight? Likability. Here's something interesting though. Since 1960, the Gallup poll has been keeping these records. In 2016 was the first time since 1960 that likability was not the issue, because both candidates were very, very unliked. And so people ended up voting not for the person they liked the most, for the person they disliked the least. It was interesting. It was a complete anomaly as far as the previous 50-something years. Well, here's something interesting that happened in the 2012 presidential election. 2008, and the financial crash, the real estate crash, was arguably one of the darkest seasons of Americans since the Great Depression. And the following election after that was 2012. It was Barack Obama and Mitt Romney were the two candidates that were going head to head. And it was clear that the number one most important thing on everyone's mind that were voting for president in 2012 was the economy, because we were coming out of one of the worst economies we've had in the history of our country. And there was a clear winner on who people thought were way more capable of handling the economy. And it was Mitt Romney by a landslide. It was like 10 times more confidence in Mitt Romney to handle the economy than Barack Obama. But guess what? The number one thing was likability. As far as likability was concerned, Barack Obama was hands down the favorite.
Much more likable.
Much more likable than Mitt Romney, and obviously who won the election. It had nothing to do with the number one concern of voters was the economy. And the clear winner in that category was Mitt Romney. But the one who was voted president was Barack Obama, because he was more likable. He's very charismatic. He's very good speaker. He's a great orator. And, for whatever reason, there are numerous reasons, the guy is incredibly talented and incredibly likable. So likability is the most important thing when it comes to politics and almost every other human way of interacting. So please make it a point to do that. And then the other two, they close more sales and make more money, certainly applicable to our industry and as network marketing professionals. And they get better service from doctors, healthcare providers, food servers, hairdressers, etc. When you are a likable patron and you're respectful and you're polite and you're likable to your server, to your doctor, to your hairdresser, to your nail tech, to your auto mechanic, whatever service or thing you are going in for, you will get better service, because everybody would rather work with a likable person as opposed to a non-likable person. And in the food industry, be likable, because I worked in a restaurant when I was younger and I was in high school.
Things that can happen to your food.
And if you're not likable, who knows what's happening in the kitchen to your food?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, because I witnessed it a lot of times and had to just shake my head and thinking, oh my goodness.
That last bullet point there gives a whole lot of reasons on why we should not be jerks, right? Why
Seriously.
we should work on being more likable, for sure.
Absolutely. So that is, let's go ahead and take it off share. But I wanted to share also something with you guys about likability, specifically about likability. It is something that doesn't come natural to many. It does come natural for others, but it is probably the most important thing in network marketing as far as being successful. If you have, now you can have people that are on social media that are influencers and they have enough people, they can just make a post. But again, it all comes down to likability. They make a post and they have a successful campaign, whether they get a lot of customers, they get a lot of consultants, or whatever the case may be, but it is rooted in likability. It doesn't, you do not become an influencer in anything if you're unlikable. And you definitely don't have a positive following if you're unlikable. You may have a big following for people that want to just hear everything you say because they hate you so much, but it's not going to be positive if you want to sell something, you want to influence somebody in a certain way or do something positive. Likability and doing something positive and being altruistic and authentic all go hand in hand. Now, again, I want to stress, it is a skill set. So if it doesn't come natural to you, practice, practice, practice. And follow people like Jessie Lee Ward. And she has so many YouTube videos and TikTok videos. People will be following her probably for decades, if not centuries, because of how influential and authentic and likable she was. And this is the interesting thing. Even people who didn't like her approach liked her because she was authentic. And that is something so unusual. But when you are consistent and you're authentic, you can have people that don't agree with you like you. They're not in your company, but they admire you from afar. I can speak for Marcy and I. That's what we did for a long, long time, and we'll continue doing. And for people like Rob Sperry, and again, the book is called The Game of Networking. I would encourage you guys to get this book and follow it along, because I love the book Go Pro by Eric Worre, which has 7 skill sets to master success in network marketing. But likability is not one of them. It's inherent in other things. And next week's topic, the law of credibility, is not in there either, one of the 7 skills. So these are basics, but they can be interwoven into some of the other things. And I love Rob Sperry's approach because it comes down to the person who is cut out for network marketing success, having likability, having credibility. And if you don't have it yet, it is a skill set. You can work for it. But here's the thing. And why would we do it? If you look at people in the world right now that have health challenges that they would like to get rid of, or they're just not thriving in their health and they would like to change that, or they're not thriving in their finances and they'd like to change that, whether they voice that to you or not, whether you've observed it or not, or whether you've heard about it from someone else or not, those realities, LifeVantage, and the opportunity that we have and the products we offer can change those things. So if you practice this skill set, you put time and effort into being likable, being authentic, leaning in, making eye contact, genuinely being concerned, asking questions, following up with people, making them feel important, you will be successful so long as you keep doing it over and over and over and over. Like I said, and if you don't, let's just call it social banking. You know how banking works. If you have money in your account, you can make a withdrawal. If you have money or you don't have money in your account and you make a withdrawal, not only will it not be paid, you will pay you'll pay an insufficient funds fee. It will cost you when you try to make a withdrawal when you haven't first made a deposit. It happens in banking and it happens in social banking. Making deposits, being authentic, complimenting people, truly caring about them, making a great first impression, being likable, those are all examples of deposits. And when you do that over and over and over and over again, and it's your time to make a withdrawal, or somebody just makes a deposit on your behalf before you even asked for the withdrawal, it all comes full circle. So lean in, do those things, make deposits. And when you have an abundance, a surplus of positivity, and you have a surplus of social banking, withdrawals will come naturally, and people just helping you will come naturally. And we'll talk about another element of that, asking favors of people, because they want to help you when you ask them a favor, which is all part of being likable. Hope you guys got some great information from this. Next week, again, is going to be the law of credibility. And it all comes from Rob Sperry's book, The Game of Networking. So thank you all for any last thing you want to say?
The last thing I wanted to say is, if you really want to get the most out of these calls that we're going to be doing, I would highly suggest that you go and get the book for yourself. You can use the link that I put in the comment section if you want to do that, or anywhere that you can get that book. I would say get the book.